selling children to slavers, causing genocides, becoming a machine overlord, and dooming the wasteland over and over again. All choices that you can make in this series. Which are the worst? Well, we're going to show you, and it all starts in the beginning.
You're here. Good. We've got a problem. A big one.
In the original Fallout, one of the earliest ethical choices comes from the search for the water chip. Vault 13's water purification system has broken down, and if it's not replaced soon, everyone inside, your friends, family, the entire vault is going to die of dehydration. So you head into the wasteland to find a replacement. Eventually, you make it to Necropolis, a ruined city mostly inhabited by ghouls. It used to be Bakersfield, California before the bombs hit. Now it's just a crumbling mess, but the ghouls have managed to survive thanks to a working water chip they salvaged from Vault 12. Vault 13 needs that chip to survive, but if you take it from Necropolis, you're basically dooming the ghouls. Without it, they can't purify water and will either die slowly or be forced into the dangerous wasteland, where they probably won't last long. And let's be real, this is classic Fallout. They're not making it past the first few tiles without getting jumped by rad scorpions. The game gives you total freedom. You can try to help the ghouls, look for another way, or just take the chip and disappear. If you choose the selfish route, the consequences hit hard. Come back to Necropolis later and it's a ghost town. Also that your vault could live. It's basically sacrificing one group to save another. And the worst part is that after everything, when you return home with the chip, the vault overseer decides you're too dangerous to keep around, and then you get exiled. So you end up in the wasteland anyway with even more blood on your hands. The protag could have saved both, it would have just taken them a little more time and legwork, but here we see maybe one of the first diabolical choices in Fallout, and we have a lot more to show you.
And frankly, I think you're the only hope we have. You need to go find us another controller chip.
What I'm gonna ask of you may seem a bit disturbing. I assure you there's a very good reason for it. I'd like to explain what I want you to do. Will you indulge me for a moment? If the water purifier can be activated, it can be used to distribute toxins that will eliminate any mutated creatures upon ingestion.
In Fallout 3, your journey through the irradiated wasteland of Washington, D.C. constantly tests your morality. Yet perhaps no decision weighs heavier than the sinister opportunity to sabotage Project Purity, the monumental effort to bring clean water back to a parched and dying wasteland.
It was simple, really. Fresh, clean water for everyone. Such a simple idea, and yet so impossible to realize.
In the scheme of things, getting clean water in a world filled with dirty, irradiated water is one of the most noblest of goals. Project Purity symbolizes hope in its purest form. Spearheaded by your father, James, it represents a monumental step toward reclaiming a semblance of normalcy in a devastated world. The capital wasteland, plagued by radiation, raiders, and mutants, desperately clings to this beacon of restoration. But as the lone wanderer, of course you're presented with a shitty alternative by the ruthless Colonel Autumn and the shadowy remnants of the Enclave. The Enclave, driven by their twisted vision of purity and order, offer you an evil choice. Infect the purified water with a modified strain of the forced evolutionary virus, aka the FEV. This insidious toxin promises to cleanse a wasteland, but only by systematically exterminating those deemed genetically impure. Accepting this mission transforms you from a potential savior into an agent of genocide. The moment of sabotage is something you can never reverse. Standing before Project Purity's control console, your heart races, acutely aware of the catastrophic consequences of your actions. Should you proceed, the purified waters, initially a symbol of hope, become a vehicle of death, silently carrying doom to thousands of unsuspecting innocents. The immediate aftermath is deceptively quiet. Water flows through the pipelines, appearing as clear and pristine as promised. Yet beneath this tranquil surface lies your treachery. Days pass before the full horror unfolds. Reports begin to flood in. Entire communities ravaged by sickness, survivors desperately fleeing, panic and betrayal spreading faster than the poison itself. Your legacy as the Lone Wanderer becomes irrevocably stained by this betrayal. Brotherhood of Steel members, once your closest allies, recoil from you in shock and disgust. Traders refuse your business, communities shutter their gates, and whispers trail behind you, branding you as the wasteland's greatest villain. The twisted irony is inescapable. The very project meant to cleanse and heal has been corrupted into a tool of mass extermination. Fallout 3, much like Fallout 2, forces you to grapple with this darkest of choices, challenging you to confront how easily good intentions can be twisted into monstrous deeds. Ultimately, poisoning Project Purity represents a reminder that even the most hopeful ventures can become nightmares in the wrong hands, and that sometimes the greatest threat to humanity's survival isn't the wasteland itself, but the choices made by those who walk it.
The pulse charge is rigged. Excellent. Excellent! The anticipation is palpable, isn't it? When you have finished savoring the moment, you may have the honor of pressing the button. Oh, and mind your eyes, it'll be brighter than bright.
Imagine stepping out from the safety of Vault 101 into the blinding sunlight of the Capital Wasteland. The radiation-soaked wind bites your skin as you catch your first glimpse of Megaton, a ramshackle settlement built around an unexploded nuclear bomb, lying ominously in the center like the ticking heart of the small city. As Fallout 3's Lone Wanderer, one of your earliest, most confrontational choices revolves around this very bomb. Approached by Mr. Burke, a slick, mysterious figure with a twisted agenda, you're presented with a haunting proposal. Rig the bomb to explode, wiping Megaton and its innocent residents from existence. Now, why would anyone want to destroy Megaton? Well, Burke represents Tenpenny Tower, a luxurious haven for the wealthy untouched by the wasteland's brutality. They find Megaton an eyesore, an unwanted blemish on their view. Burke tempts you with a luxurious lifestyle, a promise of caps, power, and a permanent residence at Tenpenny Tower. Yet Megaton is more than just a town. It's full of survivors making the most out of their bleak reality. Sheriff Lucas Sims, Moira Brown and her enthusiastic, if questionable, survival guide, Gob the Ghoul bartender struggling against prejudice. Every resident has a story worth protecting. And based on your guys' comments from our other video, the city is apparently worth saving for Miss Brown alone. The moment of decision is heavy, however. You stand before the bomb, its warped metal surface radiating menace. Defusing it means saving innocent lives, becoming a hero, and solidifying your place as a beacon of hope in the wasteland. But arming it? That's irreversible devastation for personal gain. A dark descent into villainy. Luckily, Moira puts her survival guide to good use and somehow lives through the explosion. But her skin is melty and you fucked up her appearance. Choosing to trigger the explosion sets an expressive sequence in motion. You ascend Tenpenny Tower, staring down from luxury onto distant silhouette of Megaton and the peasants that have no idea what's coming. With the push of a button, a mushroom cloud blooms silently, its terrifying beauty marking the moment you forever change the wasteland's landscape and your soul. This isn't just about destruction. It's about choice, consequence, and morality in a world stripped of all comforts and certainties. The haunting sight of Megaton's smoldering crater show that in the wasteland, every choice is stamped through eternity.
Where's my scotch?
In Fallout 2, one of the fastest ways the game tests your morals is in the Den, which is a shabby town built on addiction, trafficking, and fear. As the Chosen One, you show up chasing a Garden of Eden creation kit to save your tribe. But survival pushes hard bargains. Metzger, who runs the Slavers Guild out of the back office, offers a shortcut. Join his crew, snatch people off the road or out of their homes, haul them to the pens behind his shop, and then you can earn caps, gear discounts, and a boost to your street rep. Signing up brands you literally with a slaver's tattoo and slams your karma score through the floor. But the work is simple. Metzger hands over a target list and pays well when you drag them back in cuffs. Followers with a conscience will bail on you. Cassidy refuses to team up, Vic complains, and Sulik warns your souls on the path of pain. Towns you hit have repercussions. Guards thin out, shop inventory shrink, and background chatter switches to remarks about disappearances that trace back to you. Then travel a few weeks and circle back. Sometimes you'll see nothing but boarded up doors, orphan kids, or scavengers picking through empty homes. The perks are pretty good though. Raiders treat you like a minor celebrity, the NCR patrols hesitate before starting trouble, and merchants who move contraband knock a few caps off their prices. But the power isolates you. Neutral shopkeepers in places like Klamath or Reading start refusing service, and the slave pens themselves turn into rows of chained captives staring at you every time you collect your reward. Later, if you go back to places like Modoc or Vault City after doing a slave run, you might notice some familiar faces missing. Traders are now widowed, quest givers are now gone because they were either captured or killed trying to fight back. And this is why Fallout 2 is so badass. It doesn't just show you dramatic cutscenes to show what happened. Instead, it lets the world show you through environmental storytelling. Side quests vanish, towns feel emptier, and by the end, those choices will show up in the game's darker ending slides.
There's a town, if you could call it that, to the northeast of our city. It is filled with creatures that are polluting the groundwater with dangerous radiation.
Staying in Fallout 2, one of the more darker choices you can make happen is in Gecko, which is a small ghoul-run town barely holding things together under the threat of a failing nuclear power plant. The reactor's old and leaking, and the radiation is putting nearby Vault City at risk. Vault City is clean and not thrilled about the glowing neighbor down the road. When you show up as the Chosen One, you're pulled into the mess and given the chance to fix things, or make them worse. You can choose to repair the reactor and push Gecko and Vault City toward cooperation. It's not a perfect solution, but it keeps everyone alive. Or, if you want, you can go in the opposite direction and sabotage the whole thing. One bad input at the reactor controls and the plant melts down. The ghouls don't stand a chance. They were trying to survive, and in seconds, they're gone. The consequences don't stop there though. Vault City might be safe from Gecko's reactor now, but the explosion spreads radiation even farther. Fallout poisons the surrounding area and trust between settlements drop. People start looking at you differently. Word gets around, some NPCs treat you with more fear than respect. Then allies might back away, and towns grow colder the closer you get. You had the power to help or destroy, and if you pick destruction, there's no going back. The ghouls are gone, and you're left with the responsibility. In Fallout 2, morality is messy. It's never just good or bad, it's usually somewhere in between, where even the right thing can feel wrong. One of the clearest examples of that happens when you meet Amanda, a woman begging for help after her husband Joshua is kidnapped. She's desperate and pleading with you to save him. On the surface, it feels like it'll be a straightforward situation. Someone needs help and you're in the position to give it. Basically every side quest ever in any game. And you're the Chosen One Boy Scout, so of course you'll help. But like most things in this game, it doesn't stay that simple. As the Chosen One, you have power, and people look to you for answers and help. You could step in and save Joshua because it's the right thing to do, or you could take advantage of Amanda's desperation. If you choose the darker option, you can demand, let's say, favors in exchange for rescuing her husband. Yeah, it kind of makes you feel gross just hearing about it. If you go through with it, the consequences will hit you fast. Your karma drops by 10 points right away, but the real weight isn't the number. It's in how Amanda kind of changes after the event. Amanda shifts from hopeful to this quiet sadness. When you finally rescue Joshua, he thanks you, unaware of what happened. His gratitude makes it worse. You just have to look this sad sack in the eyes and never give your secret away. The emotional fallout lingers. Some NPCs respond to you differently afterwards, and your reputation takes a hit. But really, you're just left with the fact that you didn't have to make that choice. You just could. It really is a tough one to watch in this day and age.
In the wasteland of Fallout 2, morality isn't simply black or white. It's blurred, muddied by survival and political intrigue. Nowhere is this moral complexity clearer or darker than the harrowing choice you face in New California Republic: the assassination of Vice President Frank Carlson and tragically his young son. As the Chosen One, your quest to save your tribe takes you to NCR, a bustling beacon of hope and order amidst the post-apocalyptic chaos. But underneath the surface of stability lies a cauldron of political corruption and deadly intrigue. Here you encounter the sinister Bishop family, who offer you an opportunity too tempting and perhaps too horrifying to refuse, especially if you're into diabolical actions in your playthroughs. Your mission? Murder Vice President Carlson. Bishop seeks power and Carlson stands in his way. The task seems already dark enough, but Fallout doesn't stop at mere political assassination. To your horror, you realize that your target, Carlson, is not alone. His young son, blissfully innocent and oblivious to the deadly game of power around him, is also present, caught tragically in the crossfire of ambition. Something reminiscent out of the likes of Game of Thrones. In the heart of NCR's downtown, under the cover of darkness, you're forced into a confrontation with your own moral compass. Carlson's death might shift political tides, perhaps even paving the way for stability under new leadership. Or maybe it just furthers chaos. Yet the potential collateral damage, which in this case is a child's life, makes this decision particularly more brutal. If you choose to proceed, the consequences are rough. NCR's newspapers scream scandal and grief. Carlson's assassination plunges the Republic into chaos. Public outrage spirals as citizens grapple with the senseless murder of an innocent child alongside a beloved public figure. Trust in leadership crumbles, tensions mount, and the stability you hope to achieve seems more elusive than ever. Your choice reverberates throughout the wasteland. Allies distance themselves, and rightfully so, disgusted by your act. Enemies are emboldened by the Republic's vulnerability. The moral cost weighs heavily too. You're forced to confront the realization that survival in Fallout 2's unforgiving wasteland may demand terrible sacrifices. But at what price? This is a great example of moral complexity since it forces us to grapple with the very nature of power and ambition. How far is too far? Does the end ever justify the means, particularly when innocent lives are at stake, let alone a kid's life? The most devastating crimes aren't committed by monsters like super mutants or oversized scorpions, or even by intelligent human skin, but by those desperately believing that they're acting for a greater good. In the harsh world of Fallout 2, your actions have echoes far louder than the blast of any weapon. Perhaps no choice better encapsulates the cold weight of your decisions than the desperate scenario at the mysterious Ghost Farm. At first glance, the Ghost Farm appears haunted, its fields lined ominously with skeletal effigies. The town of MODOK whispers fearful rumors of apparitions and supernatural evil, but the truth is far more pitiful. Beneath this creepy facade dwell the Slags, a misunderstood community of peaceful survivors who, driven underground by radiation and prejudice, have crafted a hidden society to protect themselves from a harsh wasteland. As the Chosen One, you're sent by the fearful inhabitants of MODOK to investigate. Initially, your journey uncovers a hopeful opportunity for peace and cooperation between those two wary communities. The Slags are no monsters. They're simply people seeking survival and acceptance. But Fallout never insists you walk the path of virtue. It presents another, darker route, and one that can lead directly to genocide. Instead of forging peace, you have the merciless option to deceive MODOK, reporting that the Ghost Farm is indeed a den of malevolence. Driven by fear and paranoia, MODOK's armed citizens descend upon the farm in a wave of destructive violence. The Slags, unprepared and largely unarmed, stand a little chance against the aggressive mob. The aftermath is unforgettable. Returning to the Ghost Farm after this nasty decision reveals a landscape of devastation and sorrow. Once peaceful homes now smolder, littered with the remains of innocent Slags who hoped only for coexistence. Their hidden sanctuary, a place meant to shelter them from violence, becomes their tomb. The weight of genocide, the deliberate, systematic extermination of an entire community, now lies squarely upon your shoulders. But the destruction doesn't stop there. The loss of the Slags leaves MODOK vulnerable and morally tainted. Fear and suspicion grip the hearts of MODOK's residents as they grapple with their actions. They begin to question their humanity, haunted by guilt and regret. Neighboring settlements hear of the massacre, wary of forming alliances or trade, isolating MODOK even further. This scenario highlights Fallout 2's merciless portrayal of consequence and morality, and in my opinion, Fallout 2 leans deep into ethically questionable decision-making opportunities. It forces you to confront the darkest aspects of human nature, how easily fear turns neighbors into enemies and suspicion into slaughter. The genocide at the Ghost Farm becomes a powerful metaphor for the perilous ease with which societies slip into violence when compassion and understanding fail. In Fallout 2, the wasteland never forgets. Each choice resonates through history, shaping your legacy and the fates of those around you. With the Ghost Farm, Fallout 2 leaves you facing a haunting truth, that in times of desperation, the line between protector and perpetrator is dangerously thin, and crossing it can lead to unspeakable tragedy.
In Fallout Tactics, one of the biggest moral choices you face comes at the very end, when you're forced to decide what to do with the Calculator, an old world AI that's gone completely off the rails. It was originally built to help rebuild civilization after the bombs fell, but something went wrong. Now it sees humanity as a problem to fix through force, unleashing robotic armies across the wasteland in a twisted attempt to create order. You know, our inevitable future at this point. As part of the Brotherhood of Steel, you'll fight your way through cities and hostile factions to shut this thing down. But once you finally reach the calculator's core, the game will give you a decision. Destroy it and leave the region vulnerable to chaos, or take its place, becoming the new mind behind the machine. Choosing to merge with the calculator gives you full control over its power, the robot armies, high-tech infrastructure, and the tools to rebuild and enforce stability. But in doing so, you give up your humanity. You're no longer a person and you become a machine, operating from a system of wires and logic. You can bring peace, rebuild towns, and control the region, but all through cold, calculated decisions. At first, the goal might be to create a better world. Maybe you believe you can fix what's broken, but the game doesn't let that go unchecked. People start to talk. Some see you as a savior, others as just another tyrant. Order is restored, but it's a rigid one. Freedom gets replaced by surveillance and control, and settlements function, but the fear lingers. The cost of peace becomes freedom, and the wasteland starts to feel more like a machine. Even your old allies see the change. The Brotherhood, which was once your family, isn't sure what to think. Some admire the results. Others fear what you've become. You're no longer the soldier who fought beside them. You're the overlord that they report to, not someone they trust. Is this an evil choice ultimately? I think so. Maybe. How much of our protagonist's humanity ends up lost over the years? They could make the wasteland a paradise, but with the ending slides after taking this choice, it doesn't really seem like it's heading in that direction. Peace through control can be pretty evil.
Citadel Control, this is Brian 1. Citadel Control, come in. What the hell's wrong with the equipment on this flying junk pile? Let me try this. Citadel Control, come in. This is Brian 1. Citadel Control, where the heck are you? There must be a malfunction or some trouble over there. We're going to head right over and see what's going on. Hang on.
In the Broken Steel DLC, one of the most insane choices you can make comes after the Enclave has been defeated and the dust starts to settle. You've been fighting alongside the Brotherhood of Steel, helping them take down one of the most dangerous factions in the wasteland. The Brotherhood has stood for order, protection, and rebuilding. Their base, the Citadel, isn't just a military stronghold. It's a symbol of hope for those poor bastards in the capital wasteland. Inside, there are knights and scribes working non-stop to keep people safe from raiders, mutants, and whatever else crawls out of those ruins. But the game gives you a choice. You can destroy it all. Once you gain access to the Enclave's orbital strike weapon, you're given the option to use it however you see fit. And for some reason, that includes targeting the Citadel. There's no strategic reason that the game forces on you. It's mostly a moral test. Maybe you think the Brotherhood has become too powerful, or maybe you're tempted by the idea of watching what happens when one of the last organized forces in the region is wiped off the map. Either way, if you choose to enter the launch codes and confirm the strike, the Citadel is obliterated. The missile hits hard, and the explosion is visible across the wasteland. And just like that, the Brotherhood's headquarters is reduced to rubble. The people who stood beside you, who fought and bled for the same cause, are gone in an instant.
What the hell? The whole place, it's gone. It was you. You did this. You goddamn murderer. You've killed them all. Kill this traitor. Kill him.
With the Brotherhood crippled, their patrols disappear. Raiders start pushing deeper into once safe zones, super mutants roam unchecked, and regular people, those who depended on the Brotherhood's protection, are left completely vulnerable. The fragile balance in the wasteland collapses. Civilians suffer, settlements fail, and the chaos that the Brotherhood helped hold back starts spilling into every corner of the map. Your name, once tied to heroism, is now associated with betrayal. The game doesn't tell you why to do it. That part is entirely up to you. Maybe it's revenge, maybe it's curiosity, maybe you just want to see what happens when you tear everything down. It's a pretty cool choice to offer, even though it's super random. You basically just headcanon your own reasoning. Maybe you figured after the Enclave were gone that the Brotherhood would become too powerful. Which, spoiler alert, you might have been right. Because unlike a lot of the choices in this video, we actually know for a fact that this choice is not canon. In Fallout 4, the Brotherhood shows up and the Citadel is mentioned. So this choice essentially becomes useless, and maybe that's the most evil thing of it all.
I die so that democracy may live.
Picture this. You're not wandering the irradiated wasteland this time, but floating miles above the Earth aboard Mothership Zeta. Captured by mysterious extraterrestrial beings, you fought your way through the sleek metallic corridors, discovering wonders and horrors far beyond human comprehension. But the greatest shock is yet to come. Deep within this alien craft lies a terrifyingly powerful tool, a Deathray capable of obliterating entire regions on Earth with a single burst. Stepping onto the ship's command deck, screens glow ominously, displaying a haunting target. The Great Lakes region, home to the ruins of once great cities, possibly still sheltering desperate survivors. And by possibly, I mean most certainly. Here, Fallout 3 presents one of its darkest and most profound moral dilemmas. As the lone wanderer, control of the alien Deathray falls into your hands. With a single action, you have the power to either annihilate the Great Lakes area or spare it from total destruction. Why would anyone consider pulling the trigger? Perhaps it's curiosity, a twisted desire to wield ultimate power, or revenge against a world that's offered you little but pain and loss. As your fingers hover over the controls, you're faced with the reality that this choice will forever mark your soul. Choosing destruction sends a surge of chilling power through the vessel. You watch in dreadful fascination as the targeting screen locks onto its destination. With an otherworldly hum, a beam of unimaginable force lances down through the atmosphere. In an instant, entire landscapes vanish, reduced to nothing more than smoldering craters. You're left with the knowledge of your own devastating power, that true evil isn't just in the monsters you face, but sometimes it's within yourself. But refusing to fire holds its own power too. By stepping away from the destruction, you affirm your humanity amidst chaos. You reject the cold temptation of absolute power and choose mercy. The Great Lakes region remains untouched, and you can carry with you the quiet dignity of having resisted temptation. But let's be honest, if you pull this metaphorical trigger, you'd likely continue to pull it to see what happens. Fortunately, the world doesn't blow up from your trigger-happy self. But can you imagine being one of the souls hanging out near the Great Lakes trying to find some clean water when all of a sudden an alien weapon beams down on you? Just when you think things can't get any worse, somehow they inevitably do. I think it's also very telling that the Zaytans could essentially wipe out entire regions of the world and yet somehow have more restraint than you do should you choose to use this weapon. This scenario aboard Mothership Zeta forces players into one of the game's most memorable choices, emphasizing the game's profound exploration of morality, power, and consequence. In a universe filled with alien threats and nuclear devastation, the greatest battles are those waged within the human heart. So, don't be a dick. Let the people of the Great Lakes live on. Imagine standing atop Hoover Dam, flames of conflict cooling behind you. Under Caesar's banner, the Legion has claimed victory. The Courier, once a neutral wanderer, is now the architect of a darker new world. There are different ending slides for when the Legion wins, each with their own unique consequences. So I thought it would be fitting to briefly cover them since, in this case, we're deliberately siding with a faction who literally crucifies people and enslaves women. So yeah, siding with the Legion made it on the list. Let's start with the Hoover Dam victory slides should Caesar live through his tumor. Caesar enters the strip as though it was his triumph. The Legion pushes the NCR out of New Vegas entirely, driving them back to the Mojave outpost. New Vegas enters a new age. No longer the Republic's prize, no longer independent, but under the iron thumb of Rome reborn in the desert. If you allow Caesar to die, then the legate is crowned as the new Caesar. The Courier enters the strip alongside the legate, carrying both honor and guilt. Civilians are cruelly pacified. Slavery and oppression follow. Civilization is built, but at brutal cost now under the Legion's banner. Depending on your karma and whether Caesar still lives, the game depicts the Courier as anything from courageous and just to mercenary to unapologetically ruthless. If you have good karma, you're honored with a golden coin by Caesar himself, a gift validating your contributions and shared vision under the new Rome rule. Should your karma be neutral or evil, then the coin still comes, but the flavor text darkens. The Courier's path becomes tinged with brutality. We also have faction consequences. For instance, followers of the apocalypse are either hunted and totally exterminated or spared depending on your actions, occasionally allowed to flee. As for Goodsprings and other towns, some survive. Others are scarred or destroyed as the Legion consolidates power. And then there's you, or us, which is the Courier themselves. If Caesar survives, the Courier stands proudly at Caesar's side. If Caesar dies, the legate assumes the throne in a more ruthless era, still with the Courier's coin in hand. If Caesar lives, Caesar's vision is methodical. Roads improved, irrigation projects begin, slaves and citizens live under a strict but organized Roman-inspired order. The Mojave becomes a stable militarized province. The Courier is a high-ranking officer, respected, feared, and forever stained by compromise. Technically, the Mojave under Caesar's rule isn't as bad when compared to the legate himself rising instead. Like Atlanteus' reign heralds a harsher regime. Cleansing campaigns intensify, morality fades in favor of martial dominance. The Mojave becomes a crucible, efficient, brutal, and unyielding. The Courier, perhaps managing logistics or spies, becomes complicit in regimes of fear. In both outcomes, the Courier's golden coin travels as far as Legion rule, a symbol of loyalty, power, and the weight of choice. Future generations will learn of the Courier, not as a savior, but as the enabler of a new world order. Factions like the Followers are either eradicated or scattered, with their fort likely turning into ruins. Towns like Good Springs, Novak, or Freeside may exist, but under watch, tribute, or fear. Slavery becomes institutionalized. Outsiders and dissidents are dealt with harshly. So does this sound like the dawn of a golden age to you? Or does siding with the Legion seem like it deserves to be in this video? The Legion promises order, but at the cost of freedom, humanity, and hope. Choosing Caesar's path writes a new epic for the Mojave, one of conquest, discipline, and unflinching rule. In the Courier, you become the flip side of hope, a powerful figure who chose domination over compassion.
Haven't run into you before. You probably wouldn't remember me anyway. I'm Mr. Lopez.
There's a moment that hits differently from the usual evil stuff. Not because it's classic bad guy stuff, but because of how personal and unsettling it is. If you make your way to Rivet City and you head up to the top of the observation deck, you'll find Mr. Lopez. Just a man standing on the edge, seriously considering ending his life. His wife and kid were killed by raiders, and grief has completely broken him. Every day he walks up to that ledge and looks out over the ruins, debating whether it's worth going on. And the game doesn't force anything here. You can talk to him, try to comfort him, or just leave him alone. But there's also another option, one that most of us wouldn't even consider in the slightest unless you were trying to push the boundaries of what the game lets you do. You can push him. Literally shove him off the edge and watch him fall to his death. And no, I'm not talking about just physically walking into him so that he falls off the edge. No, there's an actual dialogue option to help him off the edge. It's actually crazy that the devs added it to the game, really. After it happens, there's no big cinematic or dramatic moment. Just gossip around Rivet City, people notice. The karma system takes a hit, sure, but what really lands is the tone shift. You were the lone wanderer, someone with potential to help rebuild. Now you're the person who pushed a grieving man to his death. Of course, some will argue that it's what he wanted, and that he was miserable in life. We still debate this type of situation in real life today, but in this specific situation, it's not the only options we are presented with. You could have talked to him and offered him kindness, maybe given him some sense of peace. But if you choose to push him, you're not helping him escape his pain. You're deciding that his life has no value left. Also, I just want to say that choosing any of these options doesn't actually make you evil. It's a game and it's for fun. There's no lecturing from me. I'm just writing this in the perspective of being in the world and the characters. I think morally, this might be one of the most disturbing things you can do in Fallout 3. It starts with an unmarked quest called the Kid Kidnapper. You won't find it on your Pip-Boy and there's no objective marker. But if you go to Paradise Falls and talk to Eulogy Jones, the head slaver, he'll offer you a job. He wants you to kidnap a child from Little Lamplight. He doesn't give us very many details, and he only mentions that he has some clients in the market or something. Just a straight up child abduction request. It's pretty disgusting. The kid in question is Bumble, a 6-year-old girl who's of course friendly and naive enough to follow you if you have a high enough speech skill or the Child at Heart perk. That perk was meant to help you connect with kids. In this case, it lets you manipulate one into slavery. Also, Betty or Bumble is one of the sweetest kids in Little Lamplight. I want to read you guys her official game guide description so that this really hits home as to what you're actually doing. The youngest member of Little Lamplight, Bumble, is 6 and the closest to a carefree child to be found in Little Lamplight. She's only just learned how to fire a gun but hasn't tried it out yet because she literally doesn't have the strength to pull the trigger. She sometimes carries around a teddy bear that used to be her mother's and has been passed down through generations of Lamplighters. Lucy treats her like a little sister. She's also clumsy and prone to knocking into objects, which earned her nickname. She is extremely naive. Man, 6 years old. Once she agrees to come with you, you lead her out of the safety of Little Lamplight to the waiting slaver outside. She acts friendly and gives her a pretty necklace, which is actually a slave collar, and then walks off with her into the wasteland. You don't even see what happens to her. If you return to Eulogy, he hands you your reward, the Boogeyman's Hood, which is a mask that boosts sneak. It's a decent item, but the cost is probably one of the most unethical acts in the entire game. You also get hit with a massive negative 200 karma penalty the moment you hand her off. The entire quest is built around the idea that you're willing to betray the trust of a literal child for gear and karma loss. There's no deeper purpose. It's just evil for the sake of being evil. It has to be top 3 worst choices you can make in the entire series for me personally.
Bye-bye, Vault Dweller.
You can rise from the ruins of the Commonwealth, not as a hero, but as a conqueror. Your crown forged in blood and betrayal. You are the sole survivor and now the Raider Overboss, ruler of Nuka World. But your ambition doesn't end with the amusement park's spinning rides and garish lights. You plant your flag firmly across the Commonwealth, enslaving settlements and bending survivors to your will. Storm clouds gather over the glowing Nuka World entrance. The gauntlet behind you conquered, Coulter defeated. Raider leaders bow before you. The operators, disciples, pack. You stand victorious given the symbol of absolute power, the Overboss's helmet. You've claimed Nuka World, but the Commonwealth calls. Working with Shank and Gage, you spread your authority. Outposts rise in Gladstone, Somerville, and Nordhagen. Your raiders patrol roads, collect tribute, unleash shock collars on trembling settlers. Your symbol, not just of dominance, but ownership, is branded on caps, shop fronts, and shack walls. You strut into a frail settlement, guards at your heels. Traders and farmers kneel before you. You announce, pay tribute or stay alive. Raiders drag colonists in chains, collars snap onto their necks. They cry, but you raise an arm since this is your Commonwealth now. Survivors toil in Raider-themed booths, guarantee fresh caps, chems, and security. It's brutal peace, but it's your peace. The militia of old, Minutemen, are helpless, their flame extinguished one outpost at a time. Yet every victory cuts a piece from your soul. In your manor built atop an old Minuteman post, you wander empty halls. You hear Preston's voice, the railroad's plea, the Brotherhood's stern rebuke. Your path is clear, but in the darkest hours, will you question it? Claiming the Commonwealth is a miscellaneous quest in the Fallout 4 add-on Nuka World. After completing the Grand Tour and helping the Nuka World Raiders take over the exhibits of the Nuka World theme park, the main quest Home Sweet Home will trigger and you can begin this quest of enslaving the Commonwealth, which is why this made it onto our video. This shit is foul. What would the Commonwealth look like under Overboss rule? In terms of trade, raiders run the markets. Chems, caps, and forced labor drive a shadow economy. As for the settlement outposts, once harvest fields now feed raider caravans. Old spy towers record comings and goings. And yet despite your rule, a resistance would form. Nuka World offered power, and you took it. Enslaving the Commonwealth isn't just conquest, it's a statement. The old world is gone and brutality builds a new one. Much like the Legion in New Vegas. You've earned Wasteland Warlord perks, Raider-themed shops, tribute systems, and you wear the Overboss title like a bloody badge. Yet Fallout isn't a victory lap, it's a mirror. Forcing submission, you become what you despised. Tyrant, oppressor, the darkness in the human heart. As Overboss, do you tighten the noose or allow mercy? Do you wipe out any spark of rebellion, or do you risk your empire for something better? Well, if you made it this far, you're likely more dictator and less mercy-filled. The Commonwealth may prosper under harsh order, but you've traded freedom for dominion. For now, one question remains. Was it worth it? As we see once again in Fallout 2, your legacy isn't defined by your intentions alone, but by the consequences of your every action. The Wasteland is a harsh place, and perhaps no label captures its unforgiving judgment more than Childkiller. As the Chosen One, you start your quest with the noblest of goals, to save your tribe, to restore hope, and to rebuild a fractured world. But Fallout 2's greatest strength lies in forcing you to confront the darkest corners of your morality. Among those choices, none is more horrifying or stigmatized than causing harm to the Wasteland's most vulnerable, its children. Accidentally or deliberately harming a child irrevocably brands you as a child killer, a label that immediately reshapes your entire journey. NPCs recoil in horror at your approach. Townsfolk whisper warnings, and entire communities close their doors. Your reputation transforms overnight, overshadowing any good you've accomplished. Becoming a child killer is a shitty experience. The immediate and dramatic response from the Wasteland inhabitants underscores the profound moral boundary you've crossed. Merchants refuse to trade with you. Companions abandon your side, disgusted and betrayed by your actions. Even hardened Wasteland raiders who regularly commit acts of violence react with revulsion and hostility. Fortunately, the game doesn't shy away from illustrating the severe consequences of this act. What's perhaps most crazy is the reflection this choice forces upon you, the player. In this specific Fallout, no decision is trivial. Every act carries moral weight, bouncing through the wasteland. This label isn't merely a statistic or a gameplay mechanic, it's an ethical scar permanently etched into your character's legacy. Even amidst the chaos of the wasteland, harming a child is universally condemned, reinforcing one of Fallout's clearest moral boundaries. Speaking of, can we also marinate in the fact that in Fallout's second installment, they had the stones to use a reputation called Child Killer? I feel like nowadays this game would get an insane amount of backlash for something like this. So I have to give this game bonus points for being so blatant, which is why it should come as no surprise that this is one of the most dark choices you can make in the entire series. This game forces you to grapple with the weight of your choices, constantly reminding you of the lines you've crossed and the innocence you've betrayed. By confronting players with the consequences of becoming a child killer, Fallout delivers a profound message. That even in a world devastated by nuclear apocalypse, some moral boundaries remain absolute, and crossing them forever defines who you become.
In the New Vegas Lonesome Road DLC, it has one of the most ruthless decisions in the entire series, and it comes right at the end of the DLC. As the Courier, you've made it through the Divide, a place torn apart by storms, warheads, and your own past actions. After facing Ulysses and hearing his perspective on everything that's gone wrong with the world, you reach the missile control room. It's there that you're given the chance to do something extreme. Fire off nuclear missiles at the NCR, Caesar's Legion, or both. You can also choose to walk away and power everything down. But if you go through with the launch, you're deciding to double down on the kind of destruction that ended the old world in the first place, which seems to be a common theme in this video in particular. If you target the NCR, you destroy the Long 15, one of their key routes into the Mojave. It's where they send troops, caravans, and supplies. Wiping it out doesn't just cripple the NCR's reach, it sends shockwaves across the region. You mess with trade, settlements, infrastructure, and likely take out a ton of people in the process, most of whom had nothing to do with the decisions that led to this. If you go after Caesar's Legion, the nuke lands on dry wells, obliterating their camps and wiping out their foothold. It's revenge, sure, but it's also genocide. You're not just killing Legion soldiers, you're annihilating everything in the blast zone, no questions asked. But the worst option is nuking both. This isn't a calculated move or a moral stand, it's a total rejection of all sides. You choose to erase both the NCR and the Legion in a single strike, and with it, you erase the only two powers keeping some form of order in the Mojave. The game doesn't sugarcoat it either. The final slide straight up says this:
"The Couriers finally really did it. They blew up the lands west and east of the Mojave, damning them all to hell."
You're not saving anyone, you're burning it all down, and sure, maybe neither faction deserve full control, but nuking them both is the kind of decision that makes you part of the problem. It's evil not because it's flashy or dramatic, it's evil because it's final. No diplomacy, no mercy, and no rebuilding. Just pure destruction because you had the power to make it happen. Of course, we could debate whether it's a good choice or not. That's literally the point of Lonesome Road, really. All choices in life are basically subjective from certain perspectives. But if you were an NCR soldier who just barely made it along the Long 15, and you never killed a man in your life, and you were friendly and good, and the next thing you know a nuke is landing on your head, you'd probably assume that that choice was pretty evil. Or maybe you're a citizen in dry wells that has nothing to do with Caesar's atrocities, and you get blasted as well. Point is, it's an evil damn choice to make in certain circumstances, and these decisions are still debated on to this day.
War. Never.
Yes, this is literally the point. One of the most destructive choices you can make in Fallout 76 is launching a nuclear missile, and the game actually lets you do it multiple times. Technically, it's framed as an endgame mechanic. You go through a long process collecting nuclear keycard fragments, decoding launch codes, and infiltrating one of the old missile silos left behind by the Enclave. Once you're in, you can choose exactly where to drop the bomb. Most players aim for high-level areas like Cranberry Bog or Fisher sites, so that it spawns tougher enemies and you can farm rare loot. But here's the thing, nukes in Fallout aren't just big explosions. They're weapons of mass destruction, and using one means you're repeating the exact same mistake that destroyed the world in the first place. The moral weight comes from what the nukes represent. The entire Fallout universe is built on the aftermath of nuclear war. It's the reason the world is in ruins, and why people mutate, and why so many communities never got a chance to rebuild. In Fallout 76, West Virginia has survivors trying to recover, settlers, raiders, responders, and normal people who are just trying to live in what's left. Choosing to launch a nuke for personal gain, knowing the devastation it causes, makes you no better than the governments and corporations that triggered the Great War in the first place. You're willingly introducing more radiation and destruction into an already broken world, all to get better loot. Now, obviously, it's part of the game and has no real consequences, but we're looking at this from an angle of actually being this character in the world. Imagine being your character in 76, and you need these precious resources, so you decide to nuke whatever spot you deem worthy, and your justification is to just get more rich or survive longer than the rest. You're not using the nukes to stop an invasion or to protect the innocent. You're using them because the game lets you, and because there's a reward attached. That's what makes it evil. It's not necessary, and it goes directly against everything the survivors are trying to rebuild. That is, unless you're using them to kill the Scorched Queen and to stop the plague. That is actually a good justification. But other than that, it's a pretty bad choice to be making.
You're the Vault 76 colonist who watched Appalachia bloom from ashen ruins into a fragile mosaic of communities. Two paths emerged. The industrious settlers of Foundation, led by Paige, hard-working survivors determined to tame the wasteland, and the Crater Raiders, led by Meg, fierce, bold, unapologetic, promising freedom through firepower and loot. Many Fallout fans never got into 76 and refused to play it after its rocky launch, so we wanted to quickly cover two factions in the Appalachia. First, we have the Settlers. They're bootstrap colonists grounded in cooperation. They've rebuilt Foundation from nothing: wooden shacks, hydroponic farms, clean water. Paige dreams of a self-sustaining Appalachia reclaiming the land with toil and heart. Then you have the Raiders, wild, scrappy survivors hardened by the life in the crater. Meg, her family of hardened outlaws include Rara and Roxy. Their code is survival, ravenous freedom, and ruthless authenticity. The Wastelanders arc leads you through quests for both factions, raising your reputation, unlocking their gear, planning a heist of Vault 79, which is basically a Fort Knox of sorts that houses a ton of gold. You can theoretically max both, until the moment of no return, siding with Crater or siding with Foundation. That choice seals your allegiance. But there's one sneaky other option: betrayal. You can side with one faction to execute the gold heist, then betray them at the end. Street them out of their gold, leave them in the lurch, loot for yourself. Here's why this becomes one of the bigger moral dilemmas in the game. The Settlers built homes, lives, families, all based on trust and shared dreams. Betraying them after pushing back against Raider encroachment is a knife in the back of all they sacrificed. The Raiders, though wild, are your comrades in arms. Meg, Rara, and Roxy trust you, and rightfully so, since to get to this point in the questline, you have to do a bit to earn their trust along the way, so they feel like a family full of misfits. Betraying has a qualitative impact. Morale collapses and your reputation plummets. Both factions won't forget, and in Appalachia, rumors run fast. Plus, it's a bitch to increase reputation, at least in my opinion, so the cost to buy forgiveness is steep. You'll also have to put up with Paige's disappointment or Meg's fury depending on who you betray. I will say that in the scheme of things, hurting a faction's feelings isn't as impactful here when comparing this moral dilemma to others on the list. I don't think 76 has a ton of heavy ethical choices in the game. You aren't poisoning a water supply or selling children into slavery, and even though you befriend these factions, I personally never felt emotionally attached to them. So the weight you carry here isn't nearly as significant, at least in my opinion. But still, the gold is meant to shape the economy, and the factions would clearly have something to gain here, so you can absolutely wreck a faction's future from that standpoint. You hold the power of life, trust, and a new beginning. Betrayal in the Appalachia is a choice that cuts deeper than any bullet. In Wastelanders, NPCs speak with depth and voice. Betrayal shuts them out, resulting in no second chances, and in 76, the game rejects the notion that might makes right. So choosing betrayal makes you a reflection of the worst of human nature in these parts. At the end of the day, you can side with either the Raiders or Settlers and still betray them at the final choice. But Fallout isn't about easy choices, it's about consequences. In doing so, you doom relationships, fracture communities, compromise your soul. And for what? A pile of gold? You walk into Caesar's private tent, his figure white and still in the auto-dock chamber, Lucius at his side. The air crackles with tension. Caesar lies comatose, his body shaking with the tumor's grip. You can either save him or pay a far darker price. An option glows in the dialogue menu that's crystal clear. Sell Arcade Gannon into slavery as Caesar's personal physician. A simple line that carries centuries of cruelty. If Arcade has been by your side, battling Brotherhood, exploring the Strip's secrets, you can hand him over, a loyal doctor friend, to become a slave. Keep in mind that Arcade despises the Legion, considering when you first talk to Arcade over in Freeside at the Mormon Fort, he literally alludes to hating the Legion from the get-go. He isn't shy about it. If you enslave this guy, give him a moment of silence. Arcade's face, compassionate, curious, flashes in your mind. This is the guy who has healed you, saved lives, stood up for the weak. And now you choose to speak the line. The screen goes black, and when it returns, Caesar is awake. Tumor gone, body steady. Arcade is also gone, permanently. Reputation with the Legion climbs, karma plunges, and your future in the Legion shines bright, but at a savage cost. Arcade never willingly would help the Legion, so technically the only way to make Arcade aid the Legion is to sell him into slavery during the Legion's Tumor questline. Arcade is never seen again. The game treats him as Caesar's personal slave, thus we never get a real sense of closure. There's no farewell, there's only betrayal. The desert wind carries popcorn crackles from New Vegas, and somewhere a man has been broken. Morally speaking, selling Arcade is horrific since it's not a grand choice of war or peace, but a single act of betrayal since you're selling a friend into bondage. Power comes at a cost too as Caesar rises. Legion loyalty soars, but your soul fractures. You've won the war, but lost a voice of reason. The game is big on ending slides, and the closest thing we get to closure is this.
Though the Legion was victorious at Hoover Dam, the legate did not have the same medical needs as Caesar. Lennius quickly tired of Arcade's acerbic wit and had the doctor crucified.
The fallout of this action, no pun intended, is you no longer receive tech guidance and no more heart and conscience exist in your camp. Arcade's voice is simply gone. With Arcade as the personal physician to Caesar, the Legion appears more structured and capable, bloody but efficient. This again only lasts for a few years since he unalives himself. With Arcade sold, pacifistic and moral options narrow. The Courier, you, becomes a darker force, cleaner but crueler. Slavery is no grand finale. It's a stain that poisons every victory. It's one thing to conquer territories, but another to enslave allies. Arcade's silencing isn't myth. It's a player's choice that is fundamentally sinister. And this ending, this isn't a twist, it's a test. And what you choose to do with Arcade defines you, more than any ending slide ever could. Which is why, should you choose to send Arcade to his doom, you've made one of the worst choices in the Mojave, at least ethically speaking. I remember first stepping into the scorched wastes of the Fallout universe, whether the shattered capital wasteland, the ruthless Mojave Desert, or the devastated Commonwealth, and feeling utterly alone. But I was never truly alone because I found companionship in a loyal canine ally. Dogmeat in Fallout 3 and 4, and then Rex in Fallout New Vegas. See, Dogmeat isn't just a dog. He's your faithful companion through a land ravaged by radiation and conflict. Found wandering alone, Dogmeat offers unconditional loyalty, protection, and solace amidst despair. He's more than a pet, he's a friend, an ally who braves the harshest dangers without hesitation. Then there's Rex, the cybernetic hound from New Vegas. A relic of pre-war world who carries not just wires and metal, but a loyal heart beneath his cold exterior. Rex's loyalty is unmatched, his past mysterious yet distressing, serving faithfully by your side, devoted until the end. But Fallout's freedom comes with dark possibilities. Yes, it allows even the most troubling choices, such as harming or even killing your loyal companions. Dogmeat, ever trusting, will follow your lead, oblivious to the capacity for betrayal within human nature, particularly in Fallout 3 where he's prone to death. Rex, reliant on you for repairs and survival, could similarly become a victim to the violence you've sworn to protect him from if you play the game in hardcore mode. Otherwise, he'd die a more peaceful way through old age. Pulling the trigger on Dogmeat or striking Rex down isn't just the removal of an ally. It's the betrayal of innocence, loyalty, and trust. These creatures have stood by you unquestioningly, with bravery beyond comprehension. Choosing violence against them reveals a darker reflection of yourself, a moral line that, once crossed, should earn you a trait called Dog Killer. But the game doesn't have that trait, at least officially. But come on, who's actually killing these companions? Dogmeat and Rex represent purity in a devastated world. They aren't tainted by greed, politics, or power. Their deaths symbolize a loss beyond mere gameplay. It symbolizes the abandonment of humanity itself. So while killing an animal may not be the most horrific choice you can make, I think killing Rex or Dogmeat intentionally is worth putting on this list. Because A, they're dogs. Have you ever heard a dog whimper? Shit is tragic. And B, they would never expect you to kill them since you're also their companion. that type of betrayal is worthy of being an honorable mention in this vid. I know there's likely other morally questionable decisions you can make in these games, so feel free to drop some honorable mentions in the comments section below. We have a lot more content on the way that you don't want to miss, so consider subbing, and if you left us a like, we'd really appreciate it. Remember guys, enjoy time is never wasted time, and we'll see you in the next.